In my view, India's credentials as a parliamentary democracy have been slightly diminished by what has happened in the current parliament session. Home Minister should have addressed the parliament on that immediately, on the 20th or the 21st, as the case may be. There was no need for the opposition to ask him. This principal should have known that inviting the Chief Justice is asking for trouble. India should have, it was correct to have given her the asylum, but India should have found her another place to move as soon as possible, rather than going on ignoring the demands from Bangladesh.
KP Fabian sir, thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking with us. It's a pleasure talking to you always. Let's get straight into the questions. Let's first look at some national issues before we expand the scope and look at some of the global issues. And I have a very simple question to ask. In our civics textbooks, we were told India is a parliamentary democracy. We have a parliamentary style of functioning in our political system. There's a legislature, executive, judiciary. Now, the reason why I'm going back to that civics textbook is because when the Prime Minister and the Home Minister were supposed to come to Parliament like the MPs, there's supposed to be a discussion. We've seen an absolute washout over the last 2.5, 3 odd weeks, with the opposition primarily saying that, the Prime Minister and the Home Minister need to come to Parliament and give a statement. We haven't seen that happen. The Home Minister is coming to Parliament, what the visuals show, but he's not attending the House. Question, long story short, can India still claim to be a parliamentary democracy in that sense?
Thank you. You always ask, very relevant questions. Now, in my view, India's credentials as a parliamentary democracy have been slightly diminished by what has happened in the current parliament session. Because the parliament started on this session, 20th of July, and there was a demonstration. In fact, they called it a march to the parliament by the Cockroach Janata Party. Maybe 50,000 attempted that. I'm not suggesting that all the 50,000 got close to the parliament. That's not the point. Point is 40 or 50,000 demonstrated. And there was violence from the part of the police to put it down. As I said in my last week, I said the violence from the police was unnecessary and most unfortunate. Now, in my view, the Home Minister should have addressed the Parliament on that immediately, on the 20th or the 21st, as the case may be. There was no need for the opposition to ask him. You know what I mean? But opposition asked, and then we find the Vice President, the Chair of the Rajya Sabha, transmitting the request of the opposition to the Home Minister. Well, I would have been happier if the Vice President had advised the Home Minister to be present. Language has to be used carefully. So now, after all, the word parliament comes from the French word parler. Parler means to speak, to discuss. In fact, the word parliament till the 15th century did not mean what we understand by parliament now. It meant any discussion group. Okay? But 15th century, in England, it became the parliament, the legislature. So, a parliamentary democracy, the essential part is that the executive is answerable to the legislature, in this case, the parliament, that is to our Lok Sabha and to the Rajya Sabha. Now, the executive has refused till now. I'm told that today the Home Minister might be addressing. But what is it? Today is 11th of August. And this is about something which happened on the 20th of July. Tell me, why such delay? So, as I repeat, our credentials have been diminished a bit.
Now let's look at where all of this is stemming from, and it's the Gen Z anger, the fury that we are seeing by the youngsters, from the youngsters of this country. Now, twofold question here. The Cockroach Janta Party, which has spearheaded the movement and sort of channelizing this anger, they have announced a nationwide campaign, and they have said that they will remain a pressure group and not form a political party. That is part one. So what do you think of the prospects of the CJP going forward? And the second bit is this Gen Z anger that is now multiplying even beyond the CJP. It's going at a local school level as well. How do you see the fury of this Gen Z that is now translating in the basic demand being accountability from the government? What picture does this paint of our democracy, where you have youngsters on the ground demanding answers, and the government just refuses to first acknowledge it and then be selective in how they want to go about it, like we are seeing play out in Jharkhand?
Okay, let me answer the second question first. We cannot, when I say we, including the Prime Minister of India, cannot say that the youth is the future of our country and at the same time ignore their demands in the present. If they are the future of the country, treat them properly now. Otherwise, your statement that they are the future of the country is, what shall I say, playing with words. Now, what is happening is that, the so-called Gen Z has woken up. And it's not only the, Cockroach Janata Party. You know what is happening in Jharkhand? In fact, the ABVP, the student organization linked to the BJP, that is very active there, for cancelling exams and making sure that no sort of, cheating is done. You know what I mean? So it is going to be there. Now, coming to the first question, I personally think that it is correct on the part of the CJP to remain a pressure group rather than become a political party, put up their candidates and all that. What is required, let me make it very clear. Democracy implies an intelligent and alert electorate. That is, let's imagine you are the MP coming to me asking for my vote when you want to get re-elected. Well, then I should be asking you, dear MP, now I want to know on such and such matters, how did you, what did you do? In fact, I have such and such a problem, and what have you done about it? For example, my son cannot get a job. He passed out brilliantly, but he cannot get a job. Now, what can you do, and what have you done? So that sort of conversation, a dialogue, not a monologue, that is required. And then the MP, you should be told clearly, listen, either I can say that I am pleased with what you have done and I will vote for you. Or I can say, well, I have listened to you, I will think about it. Because even there, it's better to be honest rather than cheat and say that, I'll vote for you and then not vote for you. So if the CJP and Cockroach Janata Party can encourage such alertness and intelligence on the part of the electorate, let us all thank them and wish them well.
Look at another facet of this. A few days back, the chief of the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, Dr. Mohan Bhagwat, while speaking to the Gen Z in Mumbai, said that their demands are genuine. and this generation is different than the previous ones, and they want answers, and you cannot just fool them. Now, question here is, this is the same RSS where a few days back one of their leaders in Maharashtra had said that these students who were protesting were anti-national, they were anti-India, and so on and so forth. Dr. Bhagwat seems to have clearly taken a different line on the Gen Z compared to what the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, has taken. How would you read what the RSS chief has said about students?
Well, what the RSS chief said is that, I'm quoting him, I trust Gen Z blindly. I'm quoting him. And he also said protest also is a form of dialogue. So both statements are welcome. In fact, he is trying to do some course correction. But the question is he succeeding at all? Because Prime Minister Modi said that he forgives those who have made, what shall I say, unsavory remarks or references to his mother. I mean, such remarks, if made, should never have been made. But then, I do not know the latest, but that young girl in Noida, she is 15, I think, though the FIR against her says she is 25. Now, look at that. And till the other day, the UP police was harassing her and her parents. So in other words, the question is what the Prime Minister says or what the RSS chief says. Well, is it taken seriously by the RSS and in this case by the governmental authorities? In fact, I've heard that in Delhi too, police are coming to houses and telling the parents, listen, your girl was there and we will sort of include her in our list of, those who committed a crime, and then she won't get a job and she will be in serious difficulties. So there is a lot of threatening going on. Now, all this is wrong. In other words, the Bhagawat and Prime Minister Modi should make sure that what they tell us in public is not for public consumption, but they mean it seriously and they should exercise their authority.
And one final question on domestic issues, and then we'll move on to the international. In India, we saw the Tata Institute of Social Sciences postpone their convocation because the Chief Justice of India was supposed to come. A similar thing happened in Nalsa, the law university, where students opposed the coming of the Chief Justice for the convocation. For those unaware, this whole cockroach anger, it sort of began with the Chief Justice of India making a remark in the Supreme Court referring to youngsters as cockroaches. But now we're seeing this anger playing out. And what I want to understand from you, sir, the world is looking at this. How the youngsters are reacting, how the Chief Justice is being held to account, how students are not holding back. Many say the fright, you were afraid to take on the government all this while, but now that fear is off. When the world looks at India's Gen Z now, who have clearly said that, look, we are not you can't compare us to the Gen Z of Nepal or Sri Lanka or any of that sort. We are different and we want accountability in the most peaceful manner possible. How do you think, what is the picture of India this paints, this entire Gen Z fury over the last 2 months paints in front of the world?
First of all, in my view, the TIS faculty or management did not exercise good judgment when they chose to invite the Chief Justice, because I'm in Delhi and some weeks ago in the IIC, India International Center, there was a function and the Chief Justice was supposed to come. Well, the day before he was supposed to come, his office told us that he was not going to come and the function was cancelled. And so, in other words, this principal should have known that inviting the Chief Justice is asking for trouble. Now, this doesn't mean that I am endorsing the proposition that the Chief Justice should never be invited. No, my view is that he did say something which he shouldn't have said, as he himself recognized. But from that to say that he should not be invited, no, because TIS, the convocation was postponed. So if you are the TIS student, you don't get your degree. I mean, you have to move on in life. You know what I mean? And the same thing, I don't know, in Hyderabad it was convocation, but same thing applies. So I would have told the JNC that don't say that he shouldn't be invited, but when he comes, make a very sort of visible but silent protest and be present there. And when he completes his speech or otherwise, don't join the applause. In other words, there are ways of showing your protest without disturbing the function. But then let me also say these are youngsters. They don't have that sort of, what shall I say, ability to think through all this. And they express themselves in a more open way. And I don't think we can really find fault with it. In fact, I would have thought that the Chief Justice's office also would have thought through and stopped accepting invitations for a while.
Now let's look at some of the other broader international issues that have happened over the last week, starting with our neighbor Bangladesh. Sheikh Hasina, who's in India since August 2024, has said that she will be going back to Bangladesh in December, but she said that, once I go back, there's a fear that they may kill me. The existing regime in Bangladesh may kill her and put her in jail. What is your assessment of what Sheikh Hasina has said? How should India look at this development, given that it has offered asylum to Sheikh Hasina for the last exactly 2 years now?
Sheikh Hasina appeared online and she made a presentation and then she answered questions. And I am told that that video has been seen by as many as 50 million viewers across the globe. 50 million. And we may take it that none in Bangladesh would have seen it because Bangladesh government, we were told, had sort of, banned it. Okay. Now, she said that she wants to go back to Bangladesh in December because, that is a time associated with the liberation of Bangladesh, where, of course, his father played the most prominent role. She also said certain things not very complimentary, to put it mildly. In fact, harshly critical of both the government that succeeded her, the interim government, and the current government of Prime Minister Tariq Rahman. In other words, sitting on Indian soil, she made statements, about what is happening in Bangladesh. Now, Bangladesh has reacted rather strongly and has displayed its displeasure. Now, also in Bangladesh, they are asking, why is she not coming right now? Why December? Now, we also have to take note of the fact that Government of India's position on her continued stay here has undergone a change after Tariq Rahman took over as Prime Minister. And though Government of India has not said it in so many words, it may have, this is only my guess, given her a signal. And she made this statement about her desire to go home by December might have been caused partly, only partly, by that signal she received from the government. Because how can she stay on here forever? Now, what will happen to her when she goes back to Bangladesh? Well, it is my view that it will be wrong for Bangladesh government or the judicial system there to immediately, sort of execute the death sentence that has been passed on her. Don't forget that, that sentence was decided by a tribunal without giving her any chance to appear. And there are, of course, other cases. So I take it that they might imprison her and there will be a series of cases against her. But at the same time, let us take note of the fact that she still have some degree of popular support in Bangladesh. But, some people in Delhi were saying at one time before the election, oh, she has got a lot of support, and if only her party was permitted to contest, then she would have won the election. I think that is probably a wrong reading. She was hated in Bangladesh at a point of time because, what is it, 1,400 people were killed? You see, so it's a very complex picture. But in fact, just to conclude, I should imagine, and I have said it so many times, India should have, it was correct to have given her the asylum, but India should have found her another place to move as soon as possible, rather than going on ignoring the demands from Bangladesh.
Let's look at another key development that happened is the Pakistan-Saudi Arabia-Turkey Defense Pact. It's the Mecca Agreement, if I'm not mistaken. Can you first start by telling the audience who this Mecca Agreement is aimed at before we get into what it means for India? Can you tell us about this agreement and how should one look at this?
Now, the Mecca Agreement, joined by Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Turkey, they have said that it's a collective defense agreement, that attack on one country will be treated as attack on all the three. That means on the other two also. That's point number one. Second point is that we haven't seen the text. And third point is that they have gone out of their way, especially Saudi Arabia and Turkey, that this is not directed against anyone. Now let's dig deeper. It can be directed against Iran because Iran has sent missiles to Saudi Arabia. But I do not believe that tomorrow, touch wood, it won't happen. But if it happens that President Trump starts bombing Iran, then Iran will certainly start sending missiles to the GCC countries, and that can include Saudi Arabia. If that happens, I don't expect Turkey or Pakistan to go and attack Iran. They might give some assistance to Saudi Arabia by way of maybe some interceptors, maybe some sort of satellite imagery and all that, but they are not going to get seriously involved. Okay, now the second target is Israel, because don't forget, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan signed a mutual defense treaty after Israel attacked Qatar. Qatar had thought that, with an American base there, Israel will never attack. But Israel, suspecting the presence of some, Hamas people in one or two buildings, just started attacking. So that was a shock for Qatar and the GCC. So this is partly directed against Israel. There is no doubt about it. You see. Now, at the same time, I would say it is not a NATO pact, in the sense that you can say that's the beginning of a NATO pact, but it is not yet a NATO pact. This is more political at this stage than military. Now, coming to what it means for India, well, of course, Pakistan will push the India angle, Pakistan will expect and seek support from Saudi Arabia and Turkey in case India resumes Sindhu. Well, even there, my view is that Saudi Arabia might give financial support and Turkey might give some military aid also, apart from diplomatic support. So that is where it is. And in any case, it is, in my view, it is necessary for India to look critically at its policy towards Pakistan till now. All the slogans, no talks with terror, you cannot mix water and blood, Indus Water Treaty, abeyance and all that. No, I think India has to think through. And India should endeavor to re-establish normal relations with Pakistan. It cannot be done tomorrow, but that doesn't mean one should not start trying.
So you're saying that there should be some concern in New Delhi about this security pact, or you believe otherwise?
I think there should be some concern. As I said, it's not that, but on the other hand, when Saudi Arabia and Pakistan signed their agreement, mutual defense, it was my view that Saudi Arabia will be able to exercise over Pakistan some restraint, But you see, between India and Pakistan, what's happening? Pakistan foreign policy towards India is determined by the military. And if there is a terrorist attack on India from Pakistan soil, it happens only because the military has given the permission. And perhaps not only the permission, much more than that. So that is where it is. And we have to talk to the military. President Trump hosted Munir, the field marshal. And in India, there was much shock. Diplomacy means talking to those who take decisions. So President Trump did the right thing. Now India seems to have no access to the Pakistan military. This is something which we should look into.
All right. And my final question is, of course, the Iran war, the counterclaims continue about the Strait of Hormuz. Now, while we're recording this video, the American president has said that the Hormuz Strait is open and he sought compensation from Iran. But if you just go back to the last 1 week and what has happened on that front, we still, it seems that, whatever the little peace deal that was settled, that is fragile, that is all but over. Where do you stand today, and what is your assessment of the Iran war today?
Well, it is interesting that President Trump responded to Iran's claim for compensation by saying that he wants to ask Iran to compensate for all the people killed by Iran. Well, and let me put it this way. And President Trump's statement that the Hormuz is open or it's under his control, of course, it's not. It is plainly not the case. So he goes on making these statements. And Iran has made it clear that it is negotiating with Oman, and the two countries will come to an agreement soon on how to manage the Strait of Hormuz. Now, that might happen, but Iran has made it very clear that that doesn't mean it will be open to normal passage, because Iran has demanded that based on the Memorandum of Understanding, which was signed on the 17th of June by President Trump with much fanfare in Paris, that America has to do a couple of things. One is that remove the blockade. It should have been removed within 30 days. Remove the sanctions against the sale of Iran oil, and also release the frozen funds of Iran. Now, America has not done all this, and America has even attacked Iran. So it's like this. Iran believes that it has the staying power. Iran believes that President Trump doesn't have the staying power because of the rising political costs, the looming midterms, and the price of the uh, gasoline, which the American motorist has to pay at the pump. And also the polls showing that about 1 in 3 Americans support President Trump's war. So Iran thinks that he doesn't have the staying power. Only thing is that, I do not know. Till now, I've been saying that Iran has been playing chess. But at times, I get the impression that Iran is overplaying his card. And with a man like Trump, you have to be very careful. He is quite capable of, doing, say, the following. In fact, even without his prodding it, Israel might attack Iran. Then Iran will give it back to Israel. Then President Trump can say that Israel is in danger. We have to get involved. So he can get involved. And that involvement might generate more support for Trump. But the picture is pretty bad for Trump because he has painted himself into a corner, and his Secretary for War is finding it difficult. The money that he wants from the Congress, he wants 60 billion for the Iran war, and then he wants 1.5 trillion for the defense budget. He is finding it difficult, and he hasn't established a good reputation for himself with the Congress. But it is my view that Trump will agree to talks with Iran. All that Iran has to do is very simple. That as regards the nuclear matter, they are prepared to discuss it now without waiting, till other things are completed. And of course, commentators say about 60 days, window, so many days are over. No, that is neither here nor there. The two parties can give themselves another 60 days or 100 days, And the last point is that some commentators, even in India, say that, to have a nuclear deal, Obama deal took 15 months. No, there is no need for all that. This will be pretty simple. Something about enrichment, whatever Iran agrees to, and something about the disposal of the enriched uranium. And third thing is Iran's commitment not to seek or otherwise acquire, make or otherwise acquire a nuclear bomb. So, one can dictate it because the actual verification will be done by the IAEA, which has its own procedure. You see? So it is simple. So let us hope that Iran will make that brilliant move. And in fact, Wall Street Journal has reported saying that Trump may agree to the talks and he might sort of leave out the Iran matter for the time being.
Okay, interesting. We'll leave it at that. KB Fabian, sir, thank you so much for speaking to us.
Always a pleasure.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Sir.